Good morning, camp. You wanted to learn to bake bread, so I am going to make you a video of bread baking start to finish, and I will do my very best to tell you everything I know while I do it. The first thing that you want to know about baking bread is your sourdough starter. So I keep my sourdough starter in a container like this. I keep it in the fridge, and I have a really small amount of it. I work with about maybe like 100 grams of starter at a time, and that's because I bake all the time. I have just taken the starter out of the refrigerator, and I put all of it in the trash except for this much. It's just, you can see it's like there's about, I don't know, 2 tablespoons of it left in the container. And so I'm gonna bake a loaf of bread, and it's gonna take a few days. Oh, hi. But we're gonna start here. So I'm gonna feed this starter. To make bread, you need a digital scale, one like this. You need some water, and you need some flour. We'll talk more about flour later. But to feed the starter, it doesn't matter what kind of flour you use. And I put the container on the digital scale. And now, because I'm just gonna bake 1 loaf of bread, I'm gonna add about, I don't know, let's just say 50 grams of water. 50 grams of water. I'm going to add 50 grams of flour. So the whole thing is going to equal 100 grams. There we are. I'm going to stir this up. Stir it, stir it, stir it, stir it. And now it looks like thick pancake batter. See there? Just kind of pretty. Nice. All right. I am going to put a lid just loosely on that. I'm going to set it on the counter until tonight, and I'll come back tonight and show you what happens next. See you later. Hello. All right. You fed your sourdough starter this morning, and now it's 6:46. I'm already like casual clothes, and it's time to make your poolish. I don't exactly know why it's called a poolish, but so instead of making bread all at once, we're going to make this overnight, like a sponge or a poolish or a pre-ferment. And so it's kind of a variation of what we did before. But to make the poolish, take your scale again. Oh, let me show you my starter. It's all nice and bubbly. You saw it this morning. Oh, hi, by the way. Hello. This morning it was just a couple tablespoons, and now this thing is very foamy and it's got a lot of volume. And so now we're going to make a poolish. To make a poolish, zero out your scale. You want 50 grams of this stuff. See how sticky it is? 50 grams. Okay. Come say hi to Ken. Come say hi to Ken. 100 grams of water.
I can.
And 100 grams of flour. We're going to stir it all together. So now you have 100 grams of water, 100 grams of flour, 50 grams of starter. A little more, a little more. You stir this all up, and once again, it looks a little bit like pancake batter. Put it in a plastic bag, and just loosely close the plastic bag and leave it on the counter overnight. Oh, put the lid back on this and put it back in the fridge. Put this on the counter overnight in a loosely wrapped plastic bag, and I will see you in the morning. Sorry I didn't see that. I just realized I forgot to explain something. You leave this stuff in the bowl, and you put the whole bowl inside a plastic bag. Yeah, you don't take the stuff out of the bowl. And you just loosely wrap it like that and set it on the counter. And then I'll see you in the morning. Sleep well. Good morning, Ken. All right, it's the morning of well, it's tomorrow, or today is tomorrow. Anyway, we're gonna finish up our bread. We made our poulish last night. Here it is from the counter. And mine is, I don't know, can you see that it's sort of bubbly? It's gotten thicker, gooey. It's about twice its volume. And so from the poulish, oh, I think I want to explain why do you make a poulish. And I think it is because your sourdough starter, because you're chilling it and feeding it and chilling it is really inconsistent. I think the reason you make the poulish is so that every time it's exactly at the same level of, you know, it's as active each time. Anyway, I'm not explaining it. It's early. I haven't had coffee yet. But I think that's why you make a poulish. And now we're going to make a loaf of bread. So to this, which was 100 grams of flour, 100 grams of water, and 50 grams of starter, we're going to add to this, oh, gotta get the scale. For your patience. Okay, to this we add 325 grams of water. So exciting making bread. See, if we were hanging out together, this would be more fun, but okay, 325. Then you add some salt. I use kosher salt. And because I like my bread really salty, I put in 2 teaspoons of salt. And they don't put the salt right into your sourdough starter, because apparently salt and sourdough starter don't like each other a little bit, so the water is in there to moderate it. You just stir it around with I use a spatula here to mix it up a little bit, break apart the poulish, and then to this we're going to reset the scale, and I'm going to add 425 grams of flour, and this is a mix of 25% whole wheat flour and 75% King Arthur bread flour. And I'm putting in 400 and, did I say 450? I meant to say 450. A little less is okay. The coffee's ready. And now you just stir this together. It gets a little gooey. Stir, you'll probably get it all over the counter. Probably. Takes a minute. But I think it's cool to see this in real time because it gives you a feel. You know, bread baking for me is a lot about just going by feel. You learn how the consistency is supposed to be, like how doughy, how messy, how wet, how dry. And so I think it's good for you to know about how long it takes to do this. And mine, I know I'm starting to get there when it starts to look like this. It's still pretty messy. It's gross. Yep, it's kind of gross. Okay, so one of the steps you want to do is make sure that you don't have any big lumps of dry flour in there. So what I do is I get my hand wet. I just kind of press through it to make sure that I don't have any big chunks of dry flour or wads of dry flour. And it doesn't have to be like super duper mixed up. It's okay if the bowl is still messy on the outside. This will all improve. So next we're going to do a series of what's called turn and folds. And the turn and folds create tension in the dough. And they say that you want to try to do 4 turn and folds within the first 90 minutes. And if you can't do that, don't worry about it. But it does really make a difference in how your bread dough rises up. So if you want to do like 4 and 90 minutes, that would be about every half hour. But frankly, I do it, you know, if I've got a busy work day, when I pass through the kitchen again, I do another one until I get to a total of 3 or 4. So in a few minutes, or say half an hour, I'll come back and show you that. Hello. All right, I've had my coffee. It's been about a half an hour, and I'm going to show you the first turn and fold. And I've tried to figure out how I'm going to show you this. Bread's been on the counter in this bag. Here's how it looks, kind of textured with the bowl real dirty. We'll do our first one. I do this in the bowl, but then I'll take it out of the bowl and sort of show you what it's like. I get my hand wet, and let's show you this here. What you do is you just gather up the dough around the edges and you flop it over on itself. So you stretch it and flop it over, stretch it and flop it over, stretch it, oops, flop it over. And so you're gradually sort of folding the dough on itself. And it's interesting, it sort of starts to clean up the edge of the bowl as well. So I'm going to take this out and put it on this cookie sheet so you can see exactly what's happening. Hopefully you can see this. You basically pick it up, fold it over, pick it up, fold it over, pick it up, fold it over. And basically you do this like 3 or 4 or 5 times, and you'll see that it is starting to collect into a smoother ball. It starts to get a little more pliable, and you'll see that instead of being super bumpy like it was when you started, it starts to get a little smoother. So that's fold number 1. Back in the bag, back on the counter. I'm gonna go take a shower and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. It's been about another half hour. Had a shower. Coming at this again. Hands wet. Turn and fold. Turn and fold. Turn and fold. And what you'll discover after a while is that you can get into this kind of cool thing where you're basically just grabbing, flipping it over and twisting your wrist while you're at it. It sounds really weird, but basically you're just grabbing it, setting it back down, and you make a little fold each time. Let's see if I can show you that up close. So I grab it, flip it back down, and in the process sort of fold it. Pick it up again, fold it. So basically each time you're overlapping these gluten strands, and you can see how it's starting to get really smooth. The bowl is also starting to kind of get a little cleaner. So that is turn and fold number 2. Third time, I just vacuumed the house. Damn, this place is gonna be clean. Time for number 3. My ball of dough is looking nice and smooth. You can see it's starting to like hang together a little more. Wet hand, do this for you. Turn and fold. And so now I got this sort of speeded up action that looks like this. Flip it, flip it. I know that feels weird, I'll just do it here. So you've got it. You just turn it on itself, fold it in half, turn it, fold it in half, grab it, fold it in half. And you can see as you work it, start to tighten up. It looks like a nice, plump, smooth baby's bottom, or maybe like your wife's bottom, probably nice and plump and firm and youthful, like a baby's bottom. Okay, that's that. Okay, 4th and final. I'm up, I got makeup on, it's like 10:45. And this is the 4th turn and fold before I leave the house for the day. We're just gonna, you know the roll. Pick it up, flip it over, pick it up, flip it over, pick it up, flip it over. And now I have this beautiful, smooth, gorgeous, straight ball of dough. Mine looks like this. Look how nice that looks. Perfect. So I'm gonna grab, I don't know, a clean bowl just so that I can wash that one. I'm just gonna put it in there, put it back in my plastic bag, set it on the counter for the day, and then we'll see each other at the end of the day. Hello Cam, it is late, it's 9:45. We just had a library tasting of 6 silver oak wines. So, but I have to go to bed, so I'm going to show you this. This is a Banneton. It's a basket for proofing bread. You don't need this. If you don't have this, you can use a stainless steel bowl just with a lintless towel draped on the inside. But, okay, Here's my bread. It's been proofing all day. It's more than doubled in size.
It's pretty poofy.
It's poofy. It's big. This shaker has rice flour in it. Rice flour has a really high, it doesn't burn, so you can make it really hot. So I'm dumping the bread onto the counter here, and we're going to do what's called loaf shaping. If you haven't been drinking wine, you let the bread sit for 10 or 15 minutes before you do this, but I have been drinking wine, and so I want to get up, brush my teeth, and go to bed. I'm just going to show you these moves. You put a lot of the flour in the basket. Okay, watch. Fingers, a lot of flour. Think of it like a clock. You got 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Fold, fold. 6 o'clock comes up, 12 o'clock comes down. Flip the whole thing over and think about your pinkies just sort of scooting and grabbing. Quarter turn, scoot and grab. Scoot and grab, and what you see is that all this surface tension builds as you're kind of like snugging the dough up. Man, look at that, it's beautiful. It's like gorgeously puffy.
Butthole tight?
Not butthole tight. Like again, baby's bottom. Okay? That looks perfect to me. So you nestle this thing in the basket, just like that. Put it back in the plastic bag. Loosely twist it up. It goes in the refrigerator overnight, and I'll see you in the morning. Now I'm gonna brush my teeth.
Good night, Cam.
And go to bed.
Good night.
Oh my heavens, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. Boy, we drank a lot of wine last night. John left the house at 5:30 this morning, but it's baking day, so it's 9:52, and it's time to turn on the oven. You're gonna preheat your oven. You're gonna set it at 500 degrees, and you're gonna put in your cast iron or the heaviest pot that you have. This is my big metal oven, 500 degrees, preheat for an hour with this inside. Okay, you're finally here. It's time to bake. It's baking day, yay! I'll tell you all the steps. Gotta have pot holders. Your thing's been preheating for an hour at 500. This thing is motherfucking hot. Do not burn yourself. Take the lid off. Leave the pot holder on the lid so you don't accidentally grab it by mistake. My bread has been in the refrigerator overnight. It's nice and firm. It's raised up, oh, I don't know, a bit. Not too much. Rice flour on the counter. Shake it out. Okay. You want to turn this basket out, flip it over, upside down. Nice looking loaf of bread. Get flour on your hands. Collect this little baby in your hands, and being careful not to burn your arms on the pot. Set it inside, don't burn your arms. Grab the pot holder, put the lid back on. Pot holder, pot holder. Thing's hot. Okay. Now what you do is you turn your oven down to 450 degrees. And set your timer for 30 minutes, and we'll be back in half an hour. You made it to the end, yay! Okay, it's been 15 more minutes. Pot holders. God, this is beautiful. Okay, very hot. Here's my guy coming out of the oven. Whoops, pop right out. I mean, are you kidding? How amazing is that? I like mine really dark. The white stuff is your rice flour. It doesn't burn like regular flour does, so it stays that nice and white. And you can see those little creases on the top. Those are the vents that are created when you do that 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock folding that we did. Put it on a rack to cool, and then remember, don't slice it until it is cool for the best texture bread. But you know that you're not going to be able to resist having a little bit of warm bread and butter. Just be thoughtful that when you cut it, when it's really warm, you do change the texture and the rest of the loaf a little bit. So it's up to you. You know, I eat the warm bread. Don't tell anybody. But the pros always let it cool all the way. So you've made your bread. Yay! Congrats!